Valther stood before the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. His scales were dull now, marked with scars that would never fully heal. The viewing screens floated around him, showing faces of 100 different species. All of them wanted to hear his story. All of them needed to understand what happened 10 years ago when the Korvath Empire tried to conquer Earth. "I will tell you everything," Valther said, his voice steady despite the memories. "I will tell you why we failed. Why 50,000 ships became burning metal. Why 2 million Korvath soldiers never came home." The chamber fell silent. Valther closed his eyes and let the memories flood back. It had seemed so simple at the start. Earth was a small blue world on the edge of explored space. The humans who lived there were divided into hundreds of nations. They fought each other constantly. Their technology was generations behind the Korvath. The computers said it would take 3 weeks to conquer them. Maybe 4 if they resisted. Valther had been a junior tactical officer then, young and eager for glory. He stood on the bridge of the warship Relentless Fury as the Korvath Armada assembled near Mars. 10,000 ships. The largest invasion force in Korvath history. It should have been enough to conquer 20 worlds. "They're so primitive," his commander, War Master Throck, had laughed. "Look at their ships. Metal boxes with chemical rockets. They still use projectile weapons. This will be over before lunch." But then the human fleet appeared. Only 300 ships against 10,000. Valther had felt sorry for them at first. Such bravery. Such foolishness. The lead human ship was called the Indomitable. Its captain was a man named Hyansu. Valther would never forget that name. Never forget the voice that came over the communication channel. "This is Captain Hyansu of the United Nations Space Command. You have entered human territory without permission. Turn back now or face the consequences." War Master Throck had laughed again. "Little human, you have 300 ships. We have 10,000. Do the mathematics. Surrender, and we will be merciful." There was a pause. Then Captain Hyansu spoke again. His voice was calm. "Too calm. You don't understand. This isn't about numbers. This is about what happens when you threaten our home. You should have stayed away." The human ships opened fire. Valther had expected laser beams or energy weapons like civilized species used. Instead, the humans launched thousands of metal rods. Simple kinetic weapons. Stupid weapons. Except they weren't stupid. The rods moved faster than anything Valther had ever seen. They punched through shields like they weren't there. When they hit a Korvath ship, the ship simply exploded. No warning. No time to react. Just sudden violent death. Evasive maneuvers. War Master Throck screamed. But it was too late. The humans had calculated everything perfectly. The metal rods hit 50 ships in the first 30 seconds. Then came the missiles. Hundreds of them. Valther's screens showed their composition and his blood went cold. "They're using nuclear warheads," he whispered. "Against their own planet's orbit. They're insane." The missiles detonated among the Korvath fleet. Electromagnetic pulses fried the systems of 100 more ships. The nuclear blast created walls of radiation. Ships that survived the initial explosions found there, crews dying from exposure minutes later. The human fleet moved with shocking speed. They didn't stay in formation like proper military vessels. They split up, dove around debris, used the wrecked Korvath ships as cover. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. Captain Hyansu's voice came again. "I warned you. Humans don't give up. Humans don't surrender. And humans will burn the galaxy to ash before we let aliens take our home." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Korvath had lost 800 ships. The humans had lost 90. It should have been impossible. The mathematics didn't work. But Velther had learned an important lesson that day. Humans didn't care about mathematics. War. Master Throck refused to retreat. We still outnumber them. We'll land on their moon. Establish a base. Then crush them. Velther wanted to protest. Wanted to say they should leave while they still could. But he was young and foolish. He stayed silent as the Korvath fleet regrouped. Velther watched Captain Hyunsu's ship limp away toward Earth. It was damaged badly. Leaking atmosphere. Any sensible commander would abandon it. But as Velther would learn, humans were not sensible. The Indomitable disappeared behind Earth's moon. Velther later discovered they didn't abandon the ship. They repaired it with spare parts and determination. Captain Hyunsu would fight again. Standing in the council chamber, Velther opened his eyes. The delegates stared at him with expressions ranging from horror to disbelief. That was just the first day, Velther said quietly. Just the first taste of what humans could do. We thought we had seen the worst. We thought we understood what we were facing. He paused, his clawed hand trembling slightly. We were wrong. The real horror was still to come. The moon battle would teach us that humans don't just fight to win. They fight like every battle is the last thing they'll ever do. They fight like demons from the old stories. They fight like the universe itself is trying to kill them, and they refuse to die. A delegate from the Threan Commonwealth raised a tentacle. But you had superior numbers. Superior technology. How could mere determination defeat that? Velther's laugh was bitter and hollow. That's what I'm here to explain. That's why you all need to listen. Because one day, another species might make the same mistake we did. They might think humans are just another race to conquer. And if they do, they'll learn what we learned. He straightened his posture, preparing for the hardest part of his testimony. They'll learn that hell isn't a place. Hell is what happens when you attack humanity's home. The moon looked peaceful from orbit. Gray and dusty. Dead. Velther remembered thinking it would be an easy landing. The Korvath would establish their base, repair their damaged ships, and prepare for the real battle on Earth below. 50,000 Korvath soldiers descended in dropships. The moon had several human installations scattered across its surface. Intelligence reports said maybe 5,000 human defenders total. The Korvath had better armor, better weapons, better training. The mathematics said victory was certain. Velther's transport landed in a crater near the main human base. The base was called Tranquility Station. Through his helmet, he could see the silver domes rising from the gray dust. Lights glowed inside them. The humans were home. They were waiting. Alpha Company, advance on the primary dome. War Master Throck ordered. Kill any who resist. Capture the rest. Velther marched forward with his unit. The moon's low gravity made movement strange. Each step sent him bouncing slightly. His weapon felt light in his hands. Around him, 1,000 Korvath soldiers advanced in perfect formation. Then the ground exploded beneath them. 20 soldiers simply vanished in fire and dust. Mines. The humans had buried mines in the lunar surface. Spread out. An officer screamed. Watch for another explosion. Another 10 soldiers gone. The humans had turned their own moon into a minefield. Velther's unit scattered. Formation discipline broke down as soldiers tried to avoid the hidden explosives. That's when the humans attacked. They came from everywhere at once. From behind rocks. From craters. From tunnels Velther hadn't known existed. The humans wore bulky white suits that blended with the moon dust. They moved fast in the low gravity, jumping impossible distances. Leading them was Commander Ji Woo. Velther saw her clearly through his scope. She was small compared to Korvath warriors. Her face was visible through her helmet. Young, determined, absolutely fearless. She carried a human rifle, and moved like gravity meant nothing to her. While Korvath soldiers struggled to adjust to the moon's environment, Jiwoo leaped and dove and spun through the air. She fired her weapon with perfect accuracy. Each shot hit a Korvath soldier in their weak points, the joints of their armor, the vulnerable spots in their helmets. "Impossible," Velther whispered. "She's never missed the moon's low gravity. She's trained here." Of course she had. These humans lived on this moon. They grew up in this gravity. For them, this wasn't a hostile environment. This was home. The battle became chaos. Korvath soldiers couldn't maintain formation on terrain they didn't understand. The humans used every advantage. They hid behind rocks, then bounced over them to attack from unexpected angles. They set traps in craters. They knew every inch of this dead world. Velther watched in horror as Jiwoo led a squad directly into the center of a Korvath company. The humans carried strange devices. Velther's scanner identified them as explosives. Crude chemical bombs. The humans activated the bombs. Then they kept running. The bombs exploded behind them, tearing open the Korvath soldiers' suits. On the moon, there was no air. The exposed soldiers died in seconds, their blood boiling in the vacuum. "Fall back," War Master Throck ordered. "Regroup at the landing zone." But falling back meant turning their backs to the enemy. The humans shot them down as they retreated. Velther ran, bouncing across the gray dust, watching his brothers die around him. The Korvath regrouped at their landing zone. They had lost 6,000 soldiers in 30 minutes. The remaining 44,000 dug in, established defensive positions. They would wait for reinforcements. That's when the humans brought out their truly insane weapons. "Commander," Jiwoo's voice came over the radio channel. All Korvath frequencies. She was broadcasting in their language. "Korvath soldiers, you're standing on human territory. Our sacred moon. The place where humanity first learned to reach for the stars. You will not take it from us. You will not defile it with your presence. Leave now, or we will make you leave." War Master Throck responded with threats and insults. Jiwoo's reply was simple. "You will warn." The attack came from orbit, not from human ships, from human satellites that had been in moon orbit for decades. They fired beams of concentrated radiation directly at the Korvath positions. Velther's armor began to heat up. His instruments screamed warnings. The radiation levels were lethal. The humans were bombarding their own moon with radiation. "They're killing their own surface." A soldier screamed. "The moon will be poisoned for decades." But the humans didn't care. They withdrew into their shielded bases while the Korvath died in the open. Some soldiers tried to reach their ships. The radiation fried their suit systems. They died slowly, painfully. Commander Jiwoo's forces emerged from their bases wearing different suits. Heavier suits. Radiation-proof suits, and they attacked again. Velther's unit was pinned down behind their landing craft. Only 300 soldiers remained from the original 1,000. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outmatched. Commander Jiwoo appeared on top of a ridge. She held a flag. The flag of Earth, blue and green with white stars. She planted it in the moon dust. Then she led a charge directly at the Korvath command post. It should have been suicide. 200 humans against 1,000 entrenched Korvath. But the humans moved with coordination that spoke of years of training. They used magnetic grapples to pull themselves across the surface at high speed. They threw explosives that tumbled slowly through the airless environment, then detonated with devastating effect. Jiwoo reached the command post first. She kicked down the door and threw something inside. Velther's scanner identified it as a simple pressurization bomb. It would rupture the sealed environment. The command post exploded from the inside. War Master Throck and his staff died instantly. the remaining Korvath forces broke. They ran for their ships, desperate to escape. Velthor was among them. He reached a transport and scrambled aboard. As the ship lifted off, he looked down at the moon's surface. Commander Ji Woo stood there, watching them go. Her flag still stood beside her. She didn't chase, didn't fire. She just watched them run. In 48 hours, the Korvath lost 35,000 soldiers on the moon. The survivors retreated to orbit, shaken and terrified. Velthor stood in the council chamber, his voice rough with emotion. Commander Ji Woo didn't die that day. Later, we learned she survived the entire war. She's now the commander of all human lunar forces. The humans built a statue of her on the moon. They call her the Shield of Tranquility. He looked at the assembled delegates. We thought fighting on an airless rock would give us an advantage. We were wrong. The humans fight harder when defending their territory. They'll poison their own ground. They'll use weapons that make the battlefield uninhabitable. They don't fight to control territory. They fight to make sure you can't have it either. A delegate whispered, "They're madmen." Velthor shook his head slowly. No, they're humans. And we still didn't understand what that meant. The moon was just the beginning. The real horror came when we landed on Earth itself. Against all wisdom, Korvath High Command ordered the planetary invasion to proceed. They sent down 500,000 soldiers across multiple landing zones. Velthor's regiment was assigned to Seoul, a major human city in South Korea. The dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere. Velthor watched through the viewport as the city grew larger. Tall buildings, wide streets, millions of humans living below. The intelligence briefing said Seoul had minimal military presence. Mostly civilians. Easy target. The dropships landed in what humans called a park. Green grass and trees. It looked peaceful. Wrong for a battlefield. As Velthor's unit deployed, he noticed something strange. The city was quiet. Too quiet. No civilians running. No panic. Just empty streets. Where are they? A soldier asked nervously. Then the voice came over loudspeakers, speaking in Korvath language. "Welcome to Seoul. This is Colonel Dongwoo of the 5th Mechanized Infantry Division. You've made a terrible mistake. This is our city. We know every street, every building, every hiding place. You're about to learn what urban warfare means to humans." The first shot came from a tall building. A single bullet struck the soldier next to Velthor. The soldier's helmet shattered. He fell dead. More shots. From windows, from rooftops, from underground tunnels. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. The Korvath fired back at the buildings, but the humans had already moved. Velthor's regiment advanced down a wide street. Buildings rose on both sides. Every window could hide an enemy. Every doorway could be a trap. Colonel Dongwoo's forces appeared in front of them. Not a large force. Maybe 200 soldiers with armored vehicles. The Korvath outnumbered them 10 to 1. "Easy kill," Velthor's commander said. "Fire at will." But when the Korvath advanced, the human soldiers retreated. They pulled back down side streets. The Korvath chased them, eager for victory. It was a trap. The buildings on both sides exploded. Not from bombs, from pre-placed demolition charges. The humans had rigged their own city to collapse. Tons of concrete and steel fell on the Korvath forces. Hundreds died instantly, crushed under rubble. The surviving Korvath scrambled through the wreckage. That's when the real fighting began. A human soldier appeared on a pile of rubble. Velthor's optical enhancers showed details. A corporal. Name tag read, Hey1. She carried a long rifle with a scope. A sniper. I1 fired once. A Korvath officer fell, shot through the eye. She fired again. Another officer down. She wasn't shooting ordinary soldiers. She was hunting leaders. Every shot killed someone important. Kill that sniper. The commander screamed. 20 soldiers fired at her position. But HFY had already moved. She appeared on a different building. Fired twice. 2 more officers dead. Then she vanished again. Over the next 3 days, Corporal HFY killed 47 Korvath officers. The unit lost its entire command structure. No one wanted to be promoted. Being an officer meant being her next target. Colonel Dongwu's tactics were brutal and effective. The humans never fought in the open. They used their city like a weapon. They collapsed buildings to create barriers. They flooded streets by breaking water pipes. They started fires to create smoke screens. The Korvath couldn't call in air support because the humans had hidden anti-aircraft weapons throughout the city. Every time a Korvath aircraft appeared, missiles launched from unexpected locations. The sky became as dangerous as the ground. One night, Velther's unit tried to rest in an abandoned school building. They thought it was safe. They posted guards. But the humans had been inside the walls. At midnight, poison gas flooded through the ventilation system. Not alien technology. Simple human chemical weapons. Half the unit died before they could reach their masks. The survivors fled into the street, where human soldiers were waiting. Velther escaped by playing dead. He lay among corpses for 6 hours while humans searched the area. He listened to them talk in their language. They sounded calm, professional, like this was just another day of work. The next day, Velther's unit found wounded Korvath soldiers in an alley. A human medic was treating them. Velther's scope identified him as Private Young J. He wore medical insignia on his uniform. "Don't shoot," the commander ordered. International law. Medics are protected. They watched as Young J bandaged a wounded Korvath soldier. The soldier would survive. The human medic was saving enemy lives. Then Korean soldiers appeared. They were being pursued by another Korvath unit. Young J looked at his wounded patients, looked at his retreating comrades. For a moment, Velther thought he would stay with the wounded. Instead, Young J picked up a rifle. The transformation was instant. The gentle medic became something else. Something terrifying. Young J fought like every demon from Korvath mythology. He shot with precision. When his rifle emptied, he used a pistol. When the pistol emptied, he used a knife. When 3 Korvath soldiers cornered him, he killed them all with his bare hands. By the time reinforcements arrived, Young J stood alone among a dozen dead Korvath soldiers. He was wounded in 4 places, bleeding badly, but still alive, still standing. He picked up his medical bag and walked away to help his wounded comrades. "They're all like that," Velther whispered to himself. "Every single human, teacher or soldier, farmer or fighter. It doesn't matter. They all know how to kill." The battle for Seoul lasted 3 weeks. The Korvath began with 2,000 soldiers. Velther's unit was reduced to 300. They hadn't captured a single city block. Instead, they were trapped in a nightmare of endless ambushes and traps. Colonel Dongwu's voice came over speakers every morning. "Good morning, Korvath soldiers. You're still in our city. We're still killing you. How many of your friends died yesterday? How many will die today? Leave now. Last warning." But the Korvath couldn't leave without orders. So they stayed. And they died. The humans used weapons that no civilized species would consider. Chemical agents. Biological weapons. They poisoned water supplies. They rigged gas lines to explode. They burned entire neighborhoods to deny the Korvath shelter. Velther watched them burn their own city, their own homes. He couldn't understand it. One night, he captured a human soldier, a young man, barely adult. Velther asked him, Why? Why destroy your own city? The human looked at him with cold eyes. Because you can't have it. If we can't live here, you won't either. We'll burn everything before we let aliens take our world. Valthar realized the horrible truth then. The humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure the Korvath couldn't win either. They would sacrifice anything, everything, their cities, their homes, their own lives. They fought like the universe itself was ending, and they wanted to take their enemies with them. In the council chamber, Velthar's voice shook. 3 weeks in Seoul, similar stories from every landing zone. Lagos, Snow, Palo, Mumbai. Every city became a meat grinder. The humans knew we were stronger. They didn't care. They made us pay in blood for every street corner, every building, every room. He paused, gathering strength to continue. And then the humans did something we never expected. Something that turned the entire war around. They stopped defending. They started attacking. The counteroffensive began, and we learned what real terror felt like. The Korvath fleet in orbit thought they were winning. Yes, the ground battles were difficult. Yes, casualties were high. But the human space forces had been destroyed in the first battle. Or so they believed. Then the distress calls started coming in. Unknown human ships attacking from asteroid field. We're under fire. Where did they come from? Multiple vessels emerging from dark side of moon. The human ships weren't destroyed. They had been hiding, repairing, waiting for the right moment. And now they came back with a fury that shook the Korvath fleet to its core. Leading the attack was General Taewoo, commander of all human space forces. His flagship was called the Defiant. It appeared from behind Earth's moon with 50 other ships that intelligence had listed as destroyed. This is General Taewoo to all Korvath vessels. You invaded our home. You killed our people. Now you pay the price. The human fleet didn't use careful tactics. They didn't try to outmaneuver the Korvath. They just charged straight in, firing everything they had. Velthar watched from his position on a Korvath carrier. The human ships moved with aggressive speed. They dodged between larger Korvath vessels, targeting weak points with precision. Then Captain Hyan-Su arrived. The Indomitable appeared from Earth's atmosphere. Velthar couldn't believe it. That ship had been badly damaged in the first battle. It should have taken months to repair. But here it was, rebuilt and upgraded with captured Korvath technology. Remember me. Captain Hyan-Su's voice came over the channel. You should have killed me when you had the chance. The Indomitable fired its new weapons. Korvath plasma cannons reverse-engineered and modified. The beams cut through 3 Korvath destroyers in seconds. The humans had learned to use the enemy's own technology against them. The space battle became chaos. The Korvath still had superior numbers, but the humans fought with a desperation that made them unpredictable. When their ships ran out of ammunition, they used their ships as weapons. Velthar watched in horror as a human frigate, engines dead and weapons empty, accelerated toward a Korvath dreadnought. The captain's voice came over the radio. This is Lieutenant Boemi of the UNSC Resolution. If I'm dying today, I'm taking you with me. The frigate crashed into the dreadnought's bridge at full speed. Both ships exploded in a fireball that could be seen from Earth's surface. 5,000 Korvath died instantly. Lieutenant Boemi and her crew of 200 sacrificed themselves to make it happen. They're insane. A Korvath admiral screamed. They're using their own ships as missiles. But it worked. Every time a human ship was disabled, it became a weapon. The captains aimed for critical targets and accelerated to ramming speed. The Korvath fleet learned to destroy disabled human ships quickly before they could be weaponized. On Earth's surface, the human counteroffensive began simultaneously. Major Sunho led the armored divisions that had been hiding in underground bunkers. Tanks and mechanized infantry emerged from unexpected locations, hitting Korvath positions from behind. Velthara's unit was pulled back from Seoul to defend against Sunho's advance. The human tanks were old-fashioned, diesel engines and metal armor, but they were used with brilliant tactics. Sunho's forces didn't attack head-on. They waited until Korvath units were exhausted from urban fighting. Then they struck at supply lines, at command posts, at any position that was weakly defended. The Korvath couldn't resupply, couldn't reinforce. Every convoy was ambushed. Every transport was destroyed. The ground forces began to starve. Then came the Special Forces operations. Sergeant Nayoung led a team of 20 human commandos on a mission that seemed impossible. They infiltrated a Korvath carrier in orbit. Velthar still didn't know how they managed it. Perhaps they hid in a supply transport. Perhaps they used stealth technology. It didn't matter. Nayoung and her team fought their way through the carrier. 20 soldiers against 5,000. They used hit-and-run tactics, struck fast and vanished into the ship's maintenance tunnels. The Korvath crew couldn't find them. For 6 hours, the carrier was paralyzed by 20 humans. They sabotaged systems, killed key personnel, created chaos. Then Sergeant Nayoung reached the reactor core. Her final transmission was brief. Earth remembers. Earth endures. Earth fights back. She detonated explosive charges directly in the reactor. The carrier's power core went critical. The entire ship exploded, taking every Korvath aboard with it. Sergeant Nayoung and her team died in the blast, but they took a capital ship with them. After that, every Korvath vessel became paranoid. They searched constantly for human infiltrators. The fear was worse than the attacks. Soldiers jumped at shadows, shot at imaginary enemies. The psychological warfare was destroying them from within. General Taewoo coordinated the space and ground campaigns perfectly. When Korvath ships tried to bombard Earth, human fighters intercepted them. When Korvath ground forces tried to retreat to their landing zones, human tanks blocked the way. The Korvath were surrounded, trapped, being squeezed from orbit and from the ground. Simultaneously, Velthara's regiment made a desperate attempt to reach their extraction point. They marched through burning cities, fighting every step. Human soldiers harassed them constantly. Never a large battle, just constant small attacks that wore them down. By the time they reached the landing zone, only 80 soldiers remained from the original 2,000. The transports came down under heavy fire. Half were destroyed before they could land. Velthar scrambled aboard one of the surviving ships. As it lifted off, he looked down at Earth one final time. The planet burned in places. Scars of war covered its surface. But the humans were still fighting, still resisting, still refusing to surrender. Captain Hyan-Su's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. Korvath forces, you're beaten. You're broken. Leave our system now, and we might let you live. Stay, and we'll destroy every last ship. The Korvath admiral tried to sound strong. We have reinforcements coming. We'll crush you. Captain Hyan-Su laughed. It was a cold, hard sound. Then they'll die, too. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've perfected war. We've made it an art form. You think you can defeat us? You can't even understand us. The Korvath High Command ordered a general retreat. The invasion had failed. The fleet began withdrawing from Earth's orbit, but the humans didn't let them go. In peace, Velthar stood in the council chamber, his voice barely above a whisper. That's when we learned the most terrifying thing about humans. We thought they would be happy to see us leave. We thought the war was over. He looked at the assembled delegates, his eyes haunted. We were wrong. The humans weren't satisfied with defending their world. They wanted revenge. They wanted to make sure we never came back. So they followed us. They took the war to our territory. And what they did to our colonies made Earth look like a mercy. The Korvath fleet limped away from Earth, damaged and demoralized. Velthor thought they would have time to recover. Time to regroup with their colonies and rebuild their forces. The Empire would send peace negotiators. The war would end. He was completely wrong. The human fleet followed them. Not immediately. The humans took 2 weeks to repair their ships and load supplies. Then Admiral Kisung led a pursuit force of 200 vessels into Korvath space. The Korvath High Command was outraged. They dared to invade us? After we offered them peace? But the humans had never accepted the peace offer. No one had bothered to check. Admiral Kisung's message to the Korvath government was simple and direct. You invaded our home. You killed our people. You thought you could just leave and we'd forget. We don't forget. We don't forgive. Now you face the consequences. The human fleet attacked Korvath colony worlds with surgical precision. They didn't bombard cities. Didn't kill civilians. Instead, they targeted military installations with frightening accuracy. Velthor's transport arrived at the colony world of Efta Prime. It was a peaceful world. 3 million Korvath civilians. 1 military base with 10,000 soldiers. The humans should have ignored it. It had no strategic value. But Admiral Kisung wanted to send a message. The human fleet appeared in orbit. Instead of attacking immediately, they broadcast a warning to all civilians. This is Admiral Kisung of the United Nations Space Command. Evacuate all civilian areas within 10 kilometers of military installations. You have 6 hours. We are not here to kill civilians, but we will destroy every military target on this world. The Korvath military commander refused to evacuate the base. He thought the humans were bluffing, that they wouldn't risk civilian casualties. 6 hours later, the humans attacked. Their weapons hit the military base with impossible precision. Guided missiles struck barracks, weapons depots, command centers. Not a single shot hit civilian areas. The bombardment lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the military base was completely destroyed. 10,000 soldiers dead. 0 civilian casualties. The Korvath government tried to fight back. They sent their reserve fleet to defend the colonies. The humans destroyed them systematically. Ship by ship. Battle by battle. The Korvath learned what Earth had already known. Humans were very, very good at war. Velthor's unit was stationed on the colony world of Tharsis. 30,000 Korvath soldiers prepared defenses. They had learned from Earth. They fortified cities, set traps, prepared for urban warfare. But the humans didn't attack the cities. Instead, Colonel Yunsuk landed with 10,000 soldiers outside the main settlement. She sent a message directly to the Korvath commander. We don't want to destroy your colony. We don't want to kill your civilians. Surrender your military forces. Lay down your weapons. We'll accept your surrender and leave peacefully. The Korvath commander laughed. You're outnumbered 3-1. And you're offering us surrender? Your arrogance is amazing. Colonel Yunsuk's response was quiet, almost sad. I'm trying to save lives. Yours and mine. Don't make me do this the hard way. The Korvath attacked. Velthor was in the first wave. They charged the human positions, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they ran into a killing field. The humans had prepared the battlefield perfectly. Artillery strikes hit Korvath formations with devastating accuracy. Machine gun positions covered every approach. Minefields channeled the attack into carefully prepared kill zones. But what shocked Velthor most was the discipline. The humans didn't panic, didn't break formation. They fought with cold, professional efficiency, like machines. like they had done this 1,000 times before, because they had. Humans had fought each other in wars across their entire history. They knew every tactic, every strategy, every dirty trick. The Korvath assault broke after 2 hours. Half the attacking force was dead or wounded. The humans had barely taken casualties. Colonel Yoonsuk's voice came over the speakers again. I'll ask one more time. Surrender. Please. I don't want to kill you all. Velthor made a decision then. He walked out of the Korvath lines carrying a white flag, an old human symbol of surrender. He didn't know if they would honor it. Colonel Yoonsuk met him in the neutral ground between the armies. She was smaller than Velthor, looked fragile compared to a Korvath warrior, but her eyes held the weight of command, the burden of war. I want to surrender, Velthor said. My unit, we've had enough. Yoonsuk nodded slowly. Smart choice. Order your soldiers to lay down weapons and walk toward our lines. We won't fire. What will you do with us? Take you prisoner. Treat your wounded. Feed you. Eventually send you home when this war ends. She paused. We're not monsters. We don't enjoy killing, but we will do it if we must. Velthor ordered his unit to surrender. 400 soldiers laid down their weapons and walked into human custody. The remaining Korvath forces watched in shock. Over the next week, more units surrendered to Colonel Yoonsuk. The Korvath soldiers were tired, broken. They had fought Earth and lost. They didn't want to die on a colony world for a war that was already over. The final Korvath holdout surrendered on day 9. The colony world was intact. The civilians were safe, but the military forces were completely defeated. Before the humans left, Colonel Yoonsuk gave Velthor a message to carry back to the Korvath Empire. Tell your leaders this. Tell them exactly. We didn't want this war. You brought it to us. We fought because you gave us no choice. Now the war is over because we've made it impossible for you to continue. But remember this warning. Never return to human space. Never threaten Earth again. Because if you do, we won't just defend ourselves. We'll destroy your entire civilization. We have the capability. We've proven it. The only reason your empire still exists is because we chose mercy. She handed him a data chip. This contains recordings of everything that happened in this war. Every battle. Every casualty. Show it to your leaders. Make sure they understand what happened here. Velthor took the chip with trembling hands. Why are you letting me go? Because someone needs to tell the truth, Yoonsuk said. Someone needs to warn the galaxy about what happens when you attack humanity. You're that someone now. In the council chamber, Velthor finished his testimony. 10 years had passed since the war. The scars on his body had healed. The scars on his mind never would. The final count, he said quietly. 50,000 Korvath ships destroyed or captured. 2 million Korvath soldiers killed. 3 million wounded. Our invasion of Earth cost us the largest fleet in our history. He paused, looking at the assembled delegates. And the humans? 1.2 billion dead. Mostly civilians. Their cities burned. Their moon contaminated. Their planet scarred. But they won. They didn't just survive. They won completely. The council chamber was silent. Then a delegate asked, "Where are the humans now? Are they a threat to the rest of us?" Before Velthor could answer, the chamber doors opened. Captain Hyan-Su entered. He wore a formal uniform now. Not a military uniform. A diplomatic one. He was older than Velthor remembered. Gray touched his hair. Lines marked his face. But his eyes still held that same determined fire. "I am Captain Hyan-Su," he said to the council, now serving as Earth's representative to this galactic council. "I'm here to address the concerns about humanity." He walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed him. 10 years ago, The Korvath invaded our world. They thought we were primitive, divided, easy prey. They were wrong on all counts. Yes, we were divided into nations. But when aliens threatened Earth, we became one people, one species, one purpose. He gestured to Velthor. This honorable Korvath has told you what we did to defend ourselves. Every word is true. We fought like demons. We used every weapon we had. We turned our own world into a fortress and our enemies into lessons. Hyansu's voice hardened. But I want to be clear about something. We didn't enjoy it. We didn't want that war. Every human death weighs on our collective conscience. The billion who died. The children who will never grow up. The families destroyed. We remember them all. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from a dozen species. Humans are capable of terrible violence. This is true. We have a long history of warfare. We've fought each other for thousands of years. We know war better than any species in this galaxy. But we also know the cost of war. We know the horror, the waste, the suffering. So let me make this absolutely clear, Hyansu continued. Humanity comes to this council in peace. We want trade. We want friendship. We want to join the galactic community. But we will never forget what happened when someone tried to conquer us. And we will make sure it never happens again. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator showing teeth. The Korvath Empire learned an important lesson. They thought they found easy prey. Instead, they found out why Earth has no natural predators. Why humanity rose to the top of our world's food chain. We are the predators. We are the survivors. We are the ones who looked at a hostile universe and said, we will not only survive, we will thrive. Velthor watched as the delegates shifted uncomfortably. They understood now. Understood what he had tried to explain. Humans weren't joining the galactic community as supplicants. They were joining as equals. And if anyone forgot that, they only needed to look at what happened to the Korvath Empire.